Hello, everyone. It's Cassandra Williamson. How are you today? Yes, I am coming to you again from Mudlick Holler in eastern Kentucky, Pike County. Yes, that's exactly where I am. That's precisely where I am here, taking care of family and all of that. And, you know, for the past 30 minutes or so, I've been watching The Five on Fox News. I have got to tell you that sometimes it's just so funny, and other times I just get so mad at Greg Gutfield. Not just mad, but I mean, like, he's irritating sometimes. He's a smart fellow, there's no doubt about it, but he can be, I mean, he talks over Jessica Tarlov all the time, and then not just talks over, goes, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to talk all over you," and then just yell at her. I think that is so freaking infantile. And then Jesse jumps in, does the same thing, and then had something to say about President Obama having a section on his blog post or wherever it is talking about men. Well, Jesse, this is for you. Oh my God. So it's been funny. It's been really funny to watch them and listening on their conversations, because I do love just kind of just feeding off of what they do. It is just so crazy half the time. Sometimes they say good things, and thank God they don't call themselves a news program. They're not a news program. At the very least, they're let me see, an echo chamber repeater. I don't know how else you can describe that. I think that's exactly what it is. They are an echo chamber repeater, for sure. Oh my goodness, come on, come on. So let me see what's going on. I'm putting it over here on Twitter right now. It's actually there, I think. It's just kind of look to see where my show is located at this point in time. Ah, there we go. So here I am with you. I can see myself over here on Twitter. Yeah, good thing, good thing. Path forward with Cassandra from the Holler. Yeah, that's me. And I just want to thank everyone for watching. There's some people who drop in and watch. I call them drive-by viewers, because they don't want their name associated with watching me and watching the program. So they don't click on it. They just kind of hold it off, and you can watch it like I'm doing right now over on Twitter. If I click on it over here on this side, if I click to enlarge that, it'll show up as a count. But right now, I don't want to do that. I'm just having fun with it. So, but I watched Greg and I watched Jessica and Jesse Waters, and it's really funny to me because they can go off the rail really quickly. And then there's some smart people on there. There really are some smart people there. But it is they are the repeater for the far deep right, folks. But it really gets under my skin, though. And I think Greg probably does this deliberately, because I know they know that I'm watching, and I know that they know that I do send them messages that they do read, because some of my words do show up in some of their commentary. And that's the funniest part too. But it's just really crazy, really crazy. I mean, Greg has a habit of just jumping all over people he doesn't want. He doesn't stop to let them finish what they're saying. He runs over them in their conversations. And I find that to be so abrasive and so disrespectful. But I think that's what the point is for him. He wants to be able to run over the women, particularly, Democrats especially too, but he just wants to run over them and not give them a chance to say or explain or do anything, because he's taking up all of the air and the oxygen on the show. Really, Greg, you got to stop. You got to calm down. You don't have to yell at everybody, and you don't have to run over everybody. Let them finish and then jump in. I think what it is possibly is that you're afraid you'll forget what you want to say between the time that you hear it and you have an instant reaction to it, but you're afraid you can't hold that thought in your mind long enough to talk about it after they finish talking. That's what it amounts to. That's why people run over other people. I got to say this right now because you just said it and it just occurred to me, and I will not remember it in 5 seconds. I want to get it off my mind right now. That's a person without self-control. And I don't know Greg personally, I don't, but I mean, he's willing to judge me, right? So, yeah, cool. I'll go back after, man. Jesse, you're saying that men, I love doing this. Men don't need to be drinking out of straws. They don't sit there with their legs crossed, and they don't make s'mores in the oven. They make them on a campfire. Yeah, that's what Jesse has said, folks. Come on. You haven't heard that? He said it. So anyway, I've got a cup of soda here. It's Coke. And I've got this big, long straw. What do you think about that, Jesse? Oh my gosh. Phew. Yeah, I have fun with this. I really do, because, you know, today, let me tell you about today. So I had experiences with going to a place I have not been ever. And I grew up around here. I knew where this location was. I knew all about that, but I'd never been up that holler. Never been up that. Today I ended up going up that holler twice. First thing this morning, I went up that holler looking for another little road that is not on Google or Apple or anything, but that was their address. And I actually stopped at an address at the mouth of that little holler called Thacker Holler, Thacker Bottom. It's near Edgerton, West Virginia. I stopped at a house and talked with the lady of the house. We chatted for, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. And, you know, just the conversation. Talked about her grandkids, my grandkids, and her kids were in, and all this kind of stuff. But then I had to ask about the location that I was trying to find. And she had never heard of Red's Road off of Thacker Road, Thacker Holler. So she said, just go on up the road. Maybe you'll find them. There's some people with that last name way up in there. Well, I did. I go up in there. I see an older lady by a fence from her mobile home, and I asked her about that. And she said, no, I don't know of anything like that, but I do know there's a bunch of people with that name up in the end of this holler, Thacker Holler. So I just drive. There's no signal. There's no way for me to call anyone. So I just drive. I'm going by an old school. There's an old school there, the Thacker Elementary School. I didn't know that even existed. Thacker Elementary School, an old rundown building there on the right side of the road going up in the holler. There's a coal mine up through there. I don't know. It looks like it might be a strip mine. But it goes up on the hill really far. You know, it's a big wide road. So I figure it's a strip mine. It's got all of the parameters of one. So anyway, I go past the school. I go on up in there. She said, cross a bridge. When you cross the bridge, just keep on going. So I keep on going, and lo and behold, I found Red's Road. Not on the map, but just a green sign on the side of the road that said, this is Red's Road. So I turned up in there and took the product I had for them from Walmart up there to them. And we talked for a few minutes too, because her sister was in from Wisconsin, and she was telling me all about her grandkids and all this thing. And I mean, we just had a good conversation. The reason I'm telling you that is I go wherever I need to go, and I go confidently, and I'm not afraid to go as me. Not what you see is what I had on today. This is what I wore today, everywhere. And I know that they can see what they see, they hear the voice, and I know that there's a disconnect there. I get it. I understand. It doesn't bother me. I'm pretty sure that they talked about that after I left. Wouldn't be surprised if they did, but that's fine, because that makes me the first trans person they probably ever met. And they were friendly, and I was friendly, and we weren't disrespectful to each other at all. But I learned about her family. We got to talking about some stuff like that, and about how the road was named and all this kind of stuff. I mean, and then I get out and I go back. I come back to my brother's home, and I do the noontime show, the midday show, midday with Cassandra program. It's around noon-ish. So I did that and then go back out to Walmart again. Well, the order that I had took me right back to Thacker Hollow again in Edgerton, West Virginia. And it was to the person's house that I spoke to earlier in the morning. And so I just found that so fascinating. I go back and talk to them, and the lady said, "I'm glad you could find this." And it was the daughter of the lady I spoke to earlier today. I said, "Well, I think I spoke to your mother earlier this morning." Looking for another address of this holler. So, I mean, it's a great place. People live and let live here. Why can't we do that in the rest of the country? Any ideas? Why is that so hard to do? I mean, right here in a place where most of the world thinks of it as being backward and all of this kind of stuff, educated, uninformed, not very worldly and anything like that, having no experiences beyond this. But I'm going to tell you something, the best people I've ever come across have been right here. Now, there was a time in my past when I would not have said that because I didn't know better. I was naive. And also I lacked a lot of confidence. Well, I've always been confident, I think, probably, and even arrogant to a point. I've had to learn a lot over the years. But these are good people here. This is a good, beautiful place, too. A lot of stuff going on here. Well, lots of stuff, especially if you're an ATV rider or you're connected to my family or a bunch of other families here that have been here since 1795, like mine has, on all sides. Dad's side, mom's side, everything. We've been here for a while. Okay, so this is a fascinating place to me. It's a fascinating study in how people deal with things that are different. People who are different from themselves. I have yet to run into a person who is mean or disrespectful to me. I don't get it. I don't get that here. I'm sure there are people who would, I mean, here's some of the qualifications for that, though. I guess the criteria that make that happen. One is I'm not out here to offend anyone. I am not out here trying to shove who I am down anybody's throat, and they're not out here trying to shove what they believe down my throat. We live and let live. Why can't the rest of the nation be like that? I don't know. Got any answers for that? I don't know. But I do want to point out one thing that I had said earlier today. Let me see if I can find what I was talking about here. That is not it. I got to go on back on where I was. Let me give 1 second. I'm going to pull up some comments that I had on here on a different program I had up. Oh, I put a few things up. Okay. But anyway, a good friend of mine pointed out, I've been talking about this train that looks like it's coming toward us at full speed, and it's really trying to just destroy everything that's in front of us. It's a conservative reset. And I was talking about how that is something that reoccurs in down through the history of our nation. Okay, ever so often the conservatives and Republicans, people of that mindset, decide that they've had enough of the liberal leanings of the country, and so they get themselves all riled up and all pissed off about things, and they go in and push back really hard. They gain the power and they gain the hold of the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they go, "We're stopping this right now. We're going to burn it to the ground and start over." Well, that conservative reset has been going on frequently, very cyclically over time. You could see it in the 20s and 30s because academia back then was covered up in anti-Semitism. It was covered up in anti-U.S. stuff. It was covered up in anti-military, U.S. military. They didn't want the military recruiters on their campuses in the 30s, 1930s. And so they were protesting against all of that stuff. But you know who was on campus at the time? You know who the students were predominantly? I mean, and massively predominantly. Well, the 30s, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, what was going on? It was the Great Depression. People couldn't afford to do hardly anything. So the only people who were going to these colleges and universities were wealthy white boys, mostly. There were some girls in there too, but it was wealthy white people, no people of color, very few. I mean, probably count them across the whole nation on one hand. But those are the people who were protesting against having the military conduct recruitment activities on their campuses. They were the ones who were being anti-Semitic. They were the ones who were pushing eugenics. You know, what was the guy's name? Bernard. Name just flipped out of my mind. But anyway, so, Russell. I know the name. Anyway, so Bertrand Russell. That's there it is. Got it finally. So anyway, talking about communism and socialism and eugenics and talking about race issues and stuff that's coming out of the 20s and the 30s in U.S. colleges and across other organizations in the country. It was a big deal. I mean, obviously you had the KKK that was active in the 20s too, big time active. Well, guess who learned from that? How about Adolf Hitler? Mussolini. They learned what we were doing and they took it and replicated it in their country. They were thinking that the United States would not oppose them because, lo and behold, I mean, we had thought just like them in the 20s and 30s. So they thought they didn't have to worry about the United States because we're the ones who taught them what they were doing. We're doing it again today, by the way, trying to spread our crap over into Hungary with Viktor Orban and Africa and all these places. I mean, that's all we do is export our stupidity. We're good at it. We're also good at not living up to our word once we have a compact or a deal with somebody. It's always subject to renegotiation. Trump has just put it on speed dial and actually put it on steroids and said, just destroy it all quickly. Oh, we'll have a deal here. And they come to an agreement and he goes, no, we're not doing that deal. We're going to cut it and make it a little bit better. That's, you know, do a little bit different. And then give it another couple of months and he's going to change it again. There's no stability. It's all chaos. Chaos makes the world entirely dependent upon the fragile ego of the man that's in the White House right now. So we've got a lot going on in this country, but this conservative reset, my friend who is West Point, I believe, West Point grad, I believe, Sue Meisner, I think she's a West Point grad. I'm not sure, actually. She could be Naval Academy. Anyway, she's one of the Service Academy graduates, but she's been on the board of visitors for West Point. But Sue's an amazing person, and she put this comment over on Facebook talking about this idea I was talking of the conservative reset, that this too shall pass, and that we do have hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, I believe that. But she's also right in saying that this one is a little bit worse than any other reset that we've had in the past 100 years. And that's true because this one is working at undermining all of the institutions that protect the ability for people to participate in government, to get help from the government. People will get pissed about all of this stuff. They will get pissed about it. They will get angry. They will continue to march in the streets, and they will continue to do things to try to draw attention to the non-biblical way that this administration is acting. And you're going to say, yeah, it's biblical. Yeah, one particular version of it. But then again, there are 45,000 different denominations that's recognized as Christian denominations around the world. And look, if it were Muslim, I'd be doing the same thing. I don't care what the title is or what your faith is at all. If you're trying to destroy people because you disagree with them, then your religion sucks. Your denomination is full of crap, period. You have no business doing any of those things. And I dare you to find anything in the red letters in the New Testament where Jesus said anything about any of this. I get a kick out of people over on X over here talking to me, and I have all these conversations with people about their religious views and stuff. And I have yet to tell them that, you know, I've been involved in that for a long time. I'm not now. But it's like, yeah, you're trying to tell me that I haven't read that book? I can't tell you how many times I have read that book. But I bet you $1 you haven't read the Quran. I bet you $1 you haven't read the Vedic literature that's used in India for the Hindu faith. I bet you $1 you haven't read that. You haven't read anything about the Vinay faith. You haven't read anything about the Sunnis either. There's 150 different versions of Islam, 45,000 different denominations of Christians. And I don't know how many different versions of the Vedic literature interpretations there are. I don't know. I haven't asked that question yet. Or I mean, I have, but I haven't got the answer yet. But my point is this. The one that they are using right now in this nation it looks like a mean version of themselves. They are telling us who they are, not who their God is. That's what they're doing. They're telling us who they are. Going after immigrants, going after poor people, going after the health care for people, going after your neighbors, going after your fellow people, your fellow citizens in the country, going after the underserved and disenfranchised. That doesn't fit anything I have ever read in the red letters in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Have you? No? Okay. I didn't think so. But point is, and I had this conversation with Matt Walsh. Well, actually, I talk at him. He doesn't talk back to me because I call him what he is, and he knows who he is. If you look on Matt Walsh's, let me see if I can pull up Matt Walsh here real quick. I'll just do this over here and show you. Matt Walsh. Okay, so I'm going to pull up his bio, his little bio on his Twitter feed, folks. This is Matt Walsh. He's one of the top prominent talking heads with lots of people following him, okay? I'm going to share this screen. I want you can see why I oppose him, because there are only a handful of theocratic nations in this world. Any ideas? How about Afghanistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, a couple others? Viktor Orban is trying to turn Hungary into a Christian fascist nation. Christian fascist nation. But let me share a screen. I'm going to show you what's on Matt Walsh's page, Twitter page, just so you can see for yourself why I so strongly go after people like this. Right here. Theocratic fascist. And then he goes on over to your best-selling children's author, world-renowned DEI consultant. That may be, all of those are true, but he is opposed. I mean, he writes children's books, so he has done that. The DEI consultations that he does is to tell you to dismantle them all because he doesn't think that your God is right and that you're going to hell for it. So, but he is a theocratic fascist. And that is exactly who he is. He wants to impose a religious nationalism over top of the government of the United States. And these people over here defending his comments and defending all of that. I've had so many conversations with those people. And it's just, you know, I get to watch it and see what's going on because there's some stupid stuff out there. Really is. I don't know where this comes from. But you know something, and I will say this to the day I die. I served this nation so that you can believe what you want, as long as it's not causing an affront to or causing a problem with the rest of the nation. As long as it's not being shoved down their throat. Okay? And I am talking with that, I'm talking about LGBT people, trans people. We don't need to be shoving anything down anybody's throat. And we're going to say we're not. But Put yourself in the other side for a second, and you will see that that's the perception that comes across, is that it appears that that's the way it is, even though on this side of the line, we don't think that way. Now, Christians and Muslims and the Hindu are a lot less like this, but a lot less like this. But Christian and Muslim, they will shove it down your throat, and if you disagree with them, they'll keep shoving and keep pushing, and they'll come back to your door 5 times you told them to stay away. So both sides. Now, I hate to use that kind of thing because it came up one time with Charlottesville. But anyway, in this particular case, we're all doing the wrong things here, trying to impose our views on someone else. We need to stop proselytizing. That's it. Just stop already. There's a large percentage of the world who are not one of the 45,000 Christians and not one of the 150 different versions of Islam and the multitude of versions of the Vedic literature, religious based, or the religions based on the Vedic literature. I mean, we need to stop proselytizing and telling people they're going to hell over all this stuff, because there's another version of their beliefs who says something different and interprets the book differently. There are those of us who just don't want to hear it at all anymore. We're so tired of it. And that's the reset party. That's the end of the reset. Whenever we all get so fed up with all the stuff they're tearing down and destroying, this agencies being destroyed, rules and regulations being destroyed. Yeah, some of them need to be removed. No doubt about it. But if you look at who benefits the most when those agencies and rules and regulations are rolled back, it is not the people in this country. It is not the working class people in this country. No way. It helps the billionaire class and the people running the corporations, the big businesses and stuff like that. That's who benefits from those rules. The banking industry benefits from it so that they can redline again. You don't know what that is. Look it up if you don't. But and redlining doesn't necessarily have to apply just to the black population like it did originally. It can also apply to refusing to make loans to people like me. Not that I don't have that problem, but there are some banks and banking institutions who have done that, refused. The VA, which I am a part of in terms of a veteran who gets my care through VA in Huntington, West Virginia. They've been good to me there. They've been really good to me there. My friend in Florida, VA there, has been really, really good to her too. I mean, this is just, I don't have bad experiences. She hasn't had bad experiences either, except for a couple little things. But it's so many things are changing and being broken and destroyed that we are just afraid of where it's all going. And we're getting pissed about it. We're getting really irate about it. And then that tells me that the end of this reset is coming quickly. And it won't be fun for the conservatives, because we're going to take this thing and turn it around and restore a lot of those rights and privileges and rules and stuff like that, and agencies that were destroyed here, keeping the best and getting rid of the worst. Like, that's fine. There's some things we're not going to continue doing. Absolutely. We know that there is some good being done, but we also know there's much more worse things being done as well. But my friend Sue was saying that this is much worse than any other reset that we have seen. And that's true too. So that throws a wrinkle into this, is that this reset might last a little longer, but it will eventually end. And you will eventually have that light at the end of the tunnel that you can see is coming toward us, or we're going toward it, and we can get out of it. We'll get out of it. We'll regain some things. We'll go a little bit further, try to push a little bit more, doing it slowly and methodically. And then the conservatives will all get up in arms again, and they'll do something like they did in the 50s with the Lavender Scare, kicked out all the LGBT people out of the federal government because they were security risk. Well, they've done the same thing with transgender people coming out of the service now. Call them security risks. And that is the furthest thing from that is an absolute lie. Those people are the best people I've ever seen. I've worked with I've engaged with some of them, not worked with them. These people are smarter than me by a long shot. They are some fantastic leaders, specialists in their fields, in the Space Force, Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Army, the Marine Corps, all services we are part of. But this administration kicked them all out for no good reason at all. None. Kick them out, and with a little designation on their DD-214 that says they're a security risk. You know what that does to that person now? They can't get another job where there's a security clearance requirement. That's what they've done. They've stopped these people who are highly trained and knowledgeable from getting jobs after they get out of the service. They tried to throw up a monkey wrench in front of all of it. They're doing that with transgender people across the whole spectrum. They're going after academia. They're going after the universities in this country. But it's not new, folks. Don't think this is new by any chance, because during the Lavender Scare, what else was going on? McCarthy, just prior to that, McCarthy was going through and having the communist scare. And he was cleaning house of all the communists and calling everybody a communist. And back then, you know, one of the qualifications for that, this is crazy, but he said, most Americans don't fly that American flag. So the only ones who are really flying it have got to be communists. Yeah. Unlike today, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody flies the American flag. Most of us are proud of our nation. I am, for the most part. I know that there's a lot that needs to be fixed and addressed and changed. I stand with Thomas Jefferson on that. You know what he said about it? He said this in 1816 in a letter to his friend Samuel Kercheval in July. Might have been 1816, July the 12th, 1816. He told his friend, first, don't tell anybody that I'm saying this because I don't want them to think that of me right now. They don't need to know this is how I actually believe. And that was the caveat in the front of his letter. But he kept a copy. And so did Samuel Kercheval. So anyway, in the letter, he says, I knew the people. He said, there's a lot of people out there clamoring and saying that we need to be sticking precisely to the Constitution as it was written by the founding fathers. He said, I knew them, and they would not want that. They don't want to be venerated like that. They don't want to have this etched in stone like that. And then Jefferson goes on to say, and his way of describing it, why would you or anyone force me to wear the coat of my youth when I know more, I've learned more, I've gained greater knowledge, the science and all of our industries are improving over time, and that's me paraphrasing what he said, but that's what it amounted to. We know more now. Why force me to stick to something that was good then when we know that we've changed? Thomas Jefferson, 1816. Go check it out sometime. Look up Samuel Kercheval and the letter to Samuel Kercheval from Thomas Jefferson. It's in the library at the University of Virginia. I've read about 55% of Jefferson's letters. He wrote a lot, but I've read about that many, I think about 55% of his extant letters. And probably, I'm going to figure 95% of Alexander Hamilton's. I always liked Alexander Hamilton better than Jefferson. Jefferson was a coward. Yeah, and if you think that I'm telling you something that is incorrect, well, he knew, let me just put it this way, he knew that slavery was wrong. He knew it. He understood that. He understood it in his soul that that was wrong, that you should not ever enslave another human being. He knew it. So why didn't he do something about it? Because he was afraid of two things. He was afraid that they had been enslaved for so long that they would rise up and kill all the white people. And that could have been a justifiable concern, especially if they were treated so badly, and we know that they were. But he was afraid of that. But the other thing that stood out more than even that was that he was afraid of how his peers in Virginia would see him. He lived according to what his peers wanted him to live as. So he, in my opinion, he was a coward. Martha Washington called Thomas Jefferson a hypocrite. Yeah, in her papers. She did not talk to Thomas Jefferson for 10 years because she saw him as a hypocrite. The only time she talked to him, I think, was probably after George Washington had passed away. So anyway, it's sometime after, quite some time afterwards. But there's so much that we think we know. We've been told so many things about our founding. And if you have not read their personal writings, then you haven't read enough to understand them. They were human. They knew that they had failings. Jefferson said in that same letter to Kercheval that he believed that the nation should refresh its ideals, its constitution, every generation or so. Because why? Because that new generation was not like the one that was before them. They're different. They know differently. They know other things. They've come a little bit further along in terms of industrial improvement and knowledge and all of this kind of stuff. He wanted to make sure they had the ability to adjust and adapt that Constitution beyond just the amendment process. He did say very clearly that he didn't think that the Constitution should be changed frequently. It should be done infrequently, which is fine, which is good. And I agree with that, because that's what I served, to defend the Constitution from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Anyway, I've talked too long. I've gone on and on and on and on and on. At the top of the hour, I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, I was talking about being on Thacker Holler here in West Virginia, and well, in West Virginia, across the river from where I am in Kentucky. So Thacker Holler in Edgerton in Mingo County, which is close to Kentucky and Virginia, and it's just right there in the corner of all of that stuff. Hatfield McCoy feud country. If you have an ATV, you need to come around here and get involved in these mountain trails. They are everywhere. They've taken over. There are very few mines left, and this can no longer be called the heart of the $1 million coal field, because that's no longer true. But anyway, this is a beautiful part of the country, and the people here are beautiful and amazing as well. And I love the fact that I can go anywhere in this area and feel as if I am, if not respected, at least considered as a human being like them, like everyone else, which I am. So with that, let's call it a day. Come back tomorrow around noon-ish, 1 or so Eastern time. It depends. Sometimes I come in at 11:30, 12, whatever, during that period of time, because I care for my family here. I'm the caregiver for them, and I kind of have to play around that or work around that, because that's my primary objective. Okay, that's primarily what I have going on here. Taking care of my mom and brother and sister, making sure they're have food and their medicines, and getting to the doctor's appointments and all those kind of things, and checking in on my cousin, which reminds me, I've got to call my cousin here in just a minute and make sure she's all right. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And remember, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It may be a little hard to see, and there may be a lot of smoke in front of it, blocking it from you to see it. And there may even be some boulders falling down in the tunnel to block your view that you'll have to clear out, but we can do it. We will overcome all of this and then gain so much more in the end.